What's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen when they open up? Is it going to be the same? Are we going to go back to normal? How will life be? We have no idea. And so that not knowing is what's messing with a lot of people right now. So we are going to talk about fears and not just the unknown, every other fear. And we're not going to get rid of them because you can't get rid of your fears, but we're going to show you a fantastic way that you can handle them and not let fear control your life, have you control them. And we're going to do that with one of my buddies.
This is one of my favorite topics. I'm so excited.
Paul Ramsey. And so we have with us the amazing Gina. And I cannot pronounce your last name. Fresquez, Gina? How do we say that?
Thank you. It's Gina Fresquez.
Fresquez. See, let an Israeli speak pronounced names and
not an easy one.
All of them. Where's it from?
So it's my married name, but it's a mix between Spanish and Mexican. So I mean, it's Hispanic. So yeah.
I like it. Fresquez.
Fresquez. Yes.
Like Fresquez. So let me tell you a little bit about Gina before we get started. And before we get started, if you guys have any questions, your own issues, your own fears, you want to discuss what's going on in your life right now, we invite you to do so right here. viralconnectivity.com/live. You're going to be talking to that lady when you hop on in. So hop on in, click that link wherever you're seeing us on the screen, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're watching us, just click that link, hop on in, say hi, and we'll see if we can help you find a new way to address your fears. So Gina is a best-selling author. She's an international speaker and a success and leadership coach. Is committed to supporting ambitious females and entrepreneurs in a male-dominated space. She teaches, I have to say that, Womex, how do you pronounce that, Gina?
So many times it's a great question. We write women with an X for the E to open it up to anybody who identifies with like any type. So even transgender, anybody. So
I love that. It's the first time and I was like, did she write a typo? Did she typo there? And
no, it's very popular, at least in Seattle where I'm at. So
gotcha. So
all inclusive.
So how do you pronounce it?
You still say women.
Okay. So women.
Yeah.
Right? So she's helping women overcome resistance, self-doubt, and standing in the way and help them build more confidence, more resilience to lead them from every chair and become unstoppable. And one of the things that I believe is stopping most of us, right, is the fears that we don't even know are there. So you've developed a nice system. What came before the system? Like what brought you to developing that?
Yeah, well, so I practice what I preach. I'm definitely somebody who has dealt with, what I call the war inside our head. So in my study, I call it my study of the ambitious women. And this goes for men too. It's not just women, but of course that's who I mostly speak to. But it's actually really interesting when you look up people who are very ambitious and high achieving, they are extremely hard on themselves. And what happens is they have even though on the outside, they look like they're nailing it, they're doing things, they're, reaching their goals. If you were just to enter inside their brain and hear what's going on, they are extremely hard on themselves. They have so much self-doubt, impostor syndrome. There's actually some research out there, like the more ambitious you are, especially if you're a woman or in a minority, the more impostor syndrome you have. And so those feelings of fear creep up a lot, because if you think about it, if you are somebody who is doing something different, which means you're an entrepreneur, you're putting yourself out there, you are reaching that new goal, that means you are trying to do something new. Like you're going into unknown territory, right?
Right.
And fear hates that. Fear wants to keep you stuck. Fear wants to keep you in the status quo, and fear hates the unknown. So, this topic particularly, if we're talking about the time right now, we are experiencing so much unknown, right? There's so much unknown out there. And that's why even if people feel like they have a handle on fear, normally they're experiencing it now, because the unknown is where fear gets giant and becomes a screaming baby. because the unknown is not what it wants to experience. And so what happens is that we fear in our heads, all that worry is so, it's the point where we are experiencing a point where our body doesn't know the difference between a bear chasing us and the fears that come in our minds. And so we struggle with that a lot, whether you're dealing with, where's the economy going and you're worried about that and that's causing anxiety. You're worried about where you should pivot your business to go next. Like all the worries of the unknown that are coming in is really what's going on there. And that's why so many people right now are experiencing it. And we can dive into that. But what I teach is that there's no such thing as being fearless. Fear, actually, you can't get rid of it. So there's a lot of that powering through it, muscling through fear that I see all over the place. It's like, you got to be fearless, have no fear. But in my experience, fear is a part of you. It's actually a part of your brain, and it's kept us alive for a very, very long time. But our brains are very difficult in deciphering the difference between a physical fear and a mental fear, right?
Totally.
So yeah, the stuff that's coming up. And so we can talk about it. There's a process you can go through on how you can face and embrace and actually develop a relationship with fear. Which a lot of people are like, what? I hate my fear. I don't want a relationship with my fear. But you actually turn to it and you start actually loving on it. And I know that's weird, but loving on it just a little bit and understand it better. It doesn't come up as strong. You actually, you've heard calm the fears.
Yeah. No, I haven't. Never. Yeah. Haven't heard that.
Yeah. Calm the fears down, right? Calm the fears down.
So you mean with breath or with
lots of different things?
Lots of different things. Okay. So let's talk for a second in, you're in this panic mode, right? Like, I don't know when rent is coming, right? And I'm trying to figure something out. And the kid is like, mommy, right?
Yes.
And like, there's no rational thing or anything. Fear of being on stage, fear of talking, right?
Yes.
All that stuff. All you feel is like, I can't breathe.
Anxiety.
Right. Yeah. Anxiety, right? Like all that stuff. So then what I'm hearing you say is, talk to your fear and be like, hey, you're freaking me out. I can't do anything, go away. Or what do you do?
Yeah. So there's a couple steps here. Okay. So the first one is when you are feeling that anxiety rush, like if you can't breathe, then we need to first handle that, right? You can't so here's the thing. If you treat fear like a toddler, okay. I don't know if those of you have kids. I have a 5-year-old. So we're just coming out of the toddler phase. And if you think of fear as like a big old tantrum, and just like your child, you can't get rid of it. You have to work with it.
Right.
Right. And so if you study children or work with children, you understand that when they flip their lid, which is actually them, losing all rational reality, and that's when they have their tantrum, you have to calm them down first before you can even rationalize with them. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with fear. So when you're having those anxious, big feelings, there's a couple different things you can do. I highly recommend any type of breath work, but my favorite is Dr. Andrew Wheel's 4-7-8 breathing exercise. You can go onto YouTube and Google it, but basically you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. And the focus is on the out breath. And that's actually been scientifically proven to switch your brain from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system, which those are science words, but basically from the flight or fight to the rest and digest.
Okay, so hold on a second. So you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 7.
7, breathe out slowly for 8, and do that 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the quickest way to like switch it over, right? Which that's what you're trying to do in those moments, is switch your brain from that flight or fight to, okay, I'm calming down.
Yeah.
You can also do things like focus on something tangible. So engaging your senses. Usually when we are in our mind space, when we're worrying about something, so you can sniff essential oils.
Yeah.
I used to have a little heart that was a velvet stuffed heart that I loved rubbing, like with between your fingers. Something that is going to bring you kind of into your body. That's physical. So engage any type of senses that you can do. Also brings you back out of that anxiety space, can also be helpful.
I've heard people say that, like walk bare feet, connect with the ground, all that stuff, right?
On grass.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so my challenge personally, and guys, when you're watching us, let me know if that's something that you're going through. Me personally, when I'm in like a panic mode or like anxiety mode, I'm like, dude, there's just no way that me just walking on the grass is going to help me, switch my brain.
Yes. Breathing
Yes.
probably is best for you because it's something you can force yourself to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I mean, I live in Seattle, so I can't always, like, it's raining. I can't go out and, put my feet in the grass. To me, the breathing exercise is something that you can do right here in the moment.
Yeah.
You don't need any other resources. You just do it. And you will feel a little lightheaded. And that's kind of the point.
So you get high a little bit, and then
Yeah.
in your high, what happens when you? So now we calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you make fear your friend?
Yes. So here's the thing. So once you've calmed it down and you've breathed or kind of turned off that fear flight response or whatever, then we're going to, okay, if you come from the understanding the fear is not going away and that fear has a reason for being there and that it hates the status quo. So it's really trying to protect you from going into something unknown. That's why it hates the unknown. And that's why we're experiencing this. So first thing is I actually let fear talk. I know it sounds weird. It's like split personality here. But if you could imagine fear to be a person, an image, something that you can talk to. And this is proven with like neurolinguistic programming. If you can like pull yourself away from that feeling and look at it so it's not inside you. Mm-hmm. So if you were to close your eyes and imagine, and I take people through this whole process, so I'm trying to speed it up here, but you go, okay, if fear was an image, what would it be? So I'm personifying my fear. Some people, my clients have had it be a child. It can be an old, crotchety old man. Sometimes it's an inner mean girl. I've had somebody tell me it was a serpent. It was a lava monster. Like fear can show up however it wants to show up for you.
Right.
So that it's outside of yourself and now you can talk to it. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so I say, okay, what are you so scared of happening?
Yeah.
So usually fear comes up because we want something or we're worried about something. So when you pull out that one thing that you're freaking out about, then ask it, what are you so scared of? And a lot of people don't like to go down that path.
Right.
Right. Most people are like, what you focus on grows is something you hear a lot. So,
right.
I'm not going to even put mindset into my fear because they're afraid it's going to completely take over.
Totally.
That is actually, there's a really good quote by Deepak Chopra, and it's, the more you ignore fear and anger, the greater the greater it becomes, and then it comes back. I'm not even quoting it exactly, but it comes back greater. So it's like if you shove it down and ignore it and push it away, it's gonna come back, but it's gonna be, that tantrum is gonna be bigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where you want to, face your fear, right? You turn and face it, and you go, okay, let's talk about this. What's happening right here? It's again toddler work. What happened here? Why are you freaking out? And it's really okay, what are you afraid of happening? And you let it talk.
So
go ahead.
I'm hearing myself twice for some reason. Charlene, do you want to hop in and just have a little conversation about that? I'll unmute you. No? Okay. So I'll play the role. So what am I afraid it's gonna happen? I don't know. So as an entrepreneur, I'm gonna have to get a job. This entrepreneurial thing is not gonna work. Everybody will be like, "Told you so." You should have gotten a job 10 years ago, and now you just ruined yourself, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. So that's where you go. Right. So what are you trying to do? What is fear? Why is fear raising its hand or ugly head or whatever, having the tantrum? You're saying, okay, so what if then I have to go get a job? Well, then what will my friends think? Or what will my community think? Right? People will think I'm a failure, right? And then what? So the thing is to not just stop there, but go further down to what we call the worst case scenario. Like being homeless in the river, like down by the river, like whatever you want, whatever you believe that to be true. But fear does feel like it's trying to protect you from something. And it usually has to do with safety, love, or belonging. So loss of safety, loss of love, or loss of belonging. Okay.
Right.
Any of those get threatened, that's when it's having that big, a scary tantrum. And so you can take it all the way down to the worst case scenario, like again, homeless or something like that, I mean,
Right.
usually that's not what you're worried about. Because
it's not what you're worried about. Okay.
Well,
so
it is what you're worried about, but it's usually, you know, that you're not going to let that happen because like you said, you'd go get a job.
Right.
Okay. And then what? Well, then I guess I lost my freedom. Right. Maybe that's something that you're worried about. Right. So you take it further until really you feel like you can't take it anymore. So that's the first part, is really just let fear express itself, take it to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then, because if you're ambitious and you're high achieving and you're scrappy, that's when you come in rational and be like, okay, is that really going to happen? And if it does, how am I going to handle it?
Yeah, I like that. So you're kind of like preparing for the,
yes.
and then
prepare
because you're
for the worst case
preparing,
scenario.
then it doesn't, yeah.
Then it actually calms down the fear, because here's the thing. So I live in Seattle, and there's always talks about earthquakes and volcanoes, like Mount Rainier blowing its head sometime. And people have, we can sit here and worry about it, or we can say, okay, if that was to happen, what do we do, right? So we have an emergency action plan for the city, right? We have things for earthquakes. We prepare for the worst case scenario. That helps calm those fears down. So what you do is, for that worst case scenario, you say, okay, if that was to happen, then what? How would I survive? How would I be resilient? How would I bounce back from that? How would I handle it? Right? That's that strategic part of you. You are all very smart and can strategize your business. So let's strategize our fear. How is that going to handle? And that brings it down to reality and go, okay, I feel a little rest assured. I'm calm. And I'm talking about fear, right? Fear's calm now. Okay, you told me that they'll handle it, right? Also, when you know if it's because a loss of love or loss of belonging, right? Like if you're shunned from the tribe, that means death, right? Like in the old days, like if you weren't in the tribal force, then you would die because you didn't have the resources. So being made fun of, being judged by others, those types of things, that's that loss of belonging.
Yeah.
That's that core fear. And so again, if you can recognize that that's all that fear wants for you, is for you to stay loved and belong in safety, we can actually thank it for a moment for trying so hard to keep us there, even though it was not acting very nicely and it was, getting in our way. But if you can say, hey, I know why you're there. I know that you want me to be safe. So if you think about it, if it was a family member that's not going away, so you have to learn to build a relationship with it, because you can't kick them off out of the house. They have to stay here. So let's learn how to build that relationship. And it's a lot of like conflict resolution. If you know, like steps to conflict resolution, how do you work with fear? How do you work with this relationship that's not going away, but we have to work together? So now that you've calmed it down, you recognize why it's there, you can then move forward again.
So, go ahead. So my question was like, this is all fine. And a little bit more manageable, I believe, for people when you're talking about job, housing and stuff like that. But when you start talking about belonging and being shunned from the tribe, how do you deal with that? Because if you go like, nobody will ever love me, and you go like, so I'll be alone, I'll die lonely, I'll be the lady cat, I don't know, right? The cat lady.
Yeah.
But if I, all that stuff, and by the end of it, you go like, so what's the worst case scenario? Well, I'll die alone and lonely. I think that's kind of big, right? And so how do you move beyond? How do you move beyond that? Where like, I know you're trying to protect me from dying alone and lonely, but I don't see a way around it. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, so I would then go back to, what are you actually trying to do? So usually the fear kicks up because you're trying to do something. Okay. So maybe it's because you're trying to put yourself out there, or you're going on a date, or like so that's what I would go back to. Is what you're trying to accomplish and trying to do. And so if that's the worst case scenario, again, that's where you come in and say, okay, either you're going to be okay with the worst case scenario, like if you're okay being the cat lady, that's fine. Or that's that point where you change. That's that point when you try to do something different because you don't want the worst case scenario. So that's where that strategizing and putting a plan in place, but now you've calmed down the fear. And I wanted to, right before we were talking about this, the thing is, it's a rinse and repeat process.
Yeah.
So this is why, like, it's not something that I did it once and I'm good.
If only, right?
Yeah, it is definitely, this is why I don't believe in being fearless. Like it's going to pop up again. And I have clients that have been practicing this, that I've been teaching this for years now, where you get through this process and conversation with fear that you can calm it a lot faster every time it comes up. But just like any relationship, when you communicate, I mean, I know when my husband and I, when we stop communicating and we get too busy and we're not talking to each other a whole lot, what happens? Like the relationship goes down the sink, right? And so if you communicate more and check in more, things get easier. And it's funny because I know we're talking about fear here, but that's how it works with fear. If you check in on it, which is a lot, again, this could be new information for people. Say, okay, how are you feeling today? Like you literally could have a weekly check-in with fear and be like, what's coming up for you? I had a friend say, it's almost like you have a boardroom with all your board members and you're like, okay, what does fear have to say today? Let's just make sure we address all the concerns before we can move forward. And they don't get as big when you address them more regularly. So it is a relationship. It's that checking in, that constantly, I have like a 5-step process that you ask certain questions to fear in a very certain way. And if you can do that, the faster you get at it, then every time you feel that fear come up again, you run through it and you calm it back down. So it's, again, I don't recommend you get rid of fear. It's just how you're going to work with it.
Yeah, which I like a lot because it's kind of like planning for the day, right? So the same way that you're going to plan for the day or the week or 90-day goals, you're going to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. What happens if this doesn't work out? What's the gap? How are we going to feel in, what's missing? And you just do that with your feelings rather than like your business and stuff. And you are much more calm and centered person, right? When you do that. Let's bring Dino here. Dino, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey,
Thanks for hopping in.
sure thing. How are you all?
Good.
Good.
So I have an interesting fear question for you. So I figured out last year that I have a fear of going back to the point that I didn't have any money, like really didn't have any money. And I was able to make it some kind of a driver for me. And everything was great. It really helped me to understand my why, because I didn't want to go back there, because being hungry and don't have, it's a disaster. But with all this coronavirus stuff, I have clients that, they can't pay me anymore. They owe me money. And I'm like, again, this fear of not having money. I feel that it's eating me again from the inside. So what should I do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, thank you for expressing that, because I think a lot of people are in your place. I call it kind of, it's a version of PTSD, like the whole, like, okay, I experienced this once, I don't want to go back there. I burnt out once really, really bad. And I almost prevent myself sometimes from getting busy because I'm worried, and busy equals, success sometimes. So for you, again, going through that process. So this is unprecedented times. Like nobody knows what was, we can't predict what's going to happen with COVID right now. And that's the unfortunate thing, is like, we've never experienced this before. So that's why more people are experiencing this amount of uncertainty and fear. For you particularly, one, recognize what it is. So you're experiencing this fear and this kind of constriction and anxiety in your body because you've been down that road. You've experienced the worst case scenario, right? If that's what you consider the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So you've experienced that, which is actually, I don't know, I actually think in your situation, you're pretty brave because you've already built up that resiliency muscle because you've survived it. Right? So most people don't feel like they can survive the worst case scenario, and that's why it holds them back and really clams them up and shuts them down. You are a proof example that you can survive it. Not that you want to do it again by any means, but that's resiliency. So I also teach a lot of people how to build resiliency. in their career and in their business. And every time you get knocked down, you get back up, and that's building that resiliency muscle. So you have actually stronger resiliency muscle than probably a lot of other people because you've experienced your worst case scenario. When it comes to right now in the present, this is where, again, you go down to that worst case scenario. And then how do you can't, again, we can only predict, I can't predict the future and I wish I could, but to calm the fear, one, make sure in the moment you're breathing, turn off that anxiety, do the centering stuff to get that anxiety to go away, but then work through this process. And I'll give you guys a way how to get this whole process at the end, but you're going to ask very specific questions to your fear and then put a plan in place. So once you discover what does it really want, then you are going to move into a place of, okay, if that happens, then what?
The thing is, for you. Regarding putting in the plan, is that I feel that the fear freezes me. And I know that I need to put a plan. I know what the plan is, but I can't find it in myself to actually, okay, that's the plan, write it down, break it down. I feel like, no, I'd rather not do it because I'm afraid of failure or whatever. I'm afraid to, I'll do the plan, but it will not work,
Yes, you're actually experiencing something different. So I love that you brought this up because you actually, because you've done it before, because your worst case scenario is that you have failed and been homeless and things like that, fear actually knows what that is right now because you've experienced that. What's even scarier is what you've never done before. Right? That's that fear. And so you're experiencing what I call one of the symptoms of fear, which is like procrastination, avoidance, people pleasing, perfectionism, not moving forward. Like those are the symptoms of fear. But what I see that you're experiencing is it's actually, if you already know the plan in place and you're just not doing it, there's a different fear there. It's the fear of success. It's the fear of actually getting the thing that could really make a big difference for you. It's just giving me goosebumps right now. So that means it's right. And so that's the thing that you've never done before. And that's actually scarier than the thing that you've experienced, which is the being homeless and things like that. This is why when research shows like why women or it doesn't have to be women, why anybody in a very harmful relationship, like a battered relationship or something, this is why they don't leave.
Yeah.
When, people say, just leave, like it's easy. No, it's not, because on a internal processing, subconscious level, the unknown is scarier than what they're dealing with right now, because they know when things are predictable and they know in that resiliency, they know they can handle it. Then leaving is like, they don't know if they can handle that. So that's kind of what you're experiencing, is like that other thing is actually scarier than what you've already experienced. So it literally is the unknown that most people are scary because are scared of, even though, like, oh man, that success would be so great. That, if I was well known in my industry or whatever your goal is that you could really step into, sometimes that's scarier.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because a lot of people don't talk about the fear of success, right? It's always like, what if I don't make it? But what if I do make it, right? What if all of a sudden my family hates me because I'm successful? What if my friends don't like me because I'm making more money than them? What if, right? Like all these things that you're going to have to leave behind now that you have this new successful identity. And like you're saying, that can be like way scarier than, well, I know where I am right now. This is comfortable right now. Right? I know these people, they like me. It's okay. It's a lot, right? It's a lot different. And who am I going to be when I'm successful? Right? Am I going to have to put up a show? Am I going to be like this fake person or like this rich one and someone's going to hate me? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of baggage that goes into that.
Yeah. And I will say too, I love that we brought that up because, and thank you for sharing that, because the thing is when you are doing something that you've never done, you do need to go into that. So those questions, that worst case scenario question is not for you specifically that you're going to end up in the same place that you were. It's something else. So I would recommend you go through these steps to figure out if you were successful, if you did move forward, if you push through this resistance that you're feeling, because that's, again, like a symptom, it's preventing you from moving forward. I suggest you go address that, not the other thing, because you have whether you know it or not, it's probably buried. There is a fear there of something that if you were to be successful with that or move forward with that, something would happen. And that's what you need to figure out what that is.
I love that. And I want to bring Charlene, who shared something very comfortable about being in the comfort zone. Charlene, I'm going to unmute you. Let's see.
I'm muting me too.
There
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
It's great. I actually did post. It did work. But I wasn't scared actually by the time I got on. So there's something to be said about, things screwing up around you, making you do stuff just because, what the hell at this point.
Let me just bring people in. So Charlene took my live streaming course, and today she was practicing live streaming because everybody's doing this together. And for some reason, the camera wasn't coming on. And so we jumped
Three times,
right? And we had a black thing, and we jumped on Zoom, and we figured it out that it's the bandwidth. Is that what it was? Yeah.
It was.
Bandwidth.
I just switched computers.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Sometimes when in doubt, restart, right?
Yeah.
So fear. What do we have to say about fear?
I think, so there's something comforting about fear. It's familiar for us.
Yeah.
Because anytime you go into a new situation, you're fearful. Speaking in front of a crowd, live streaming.
Right.
And it's really easy for us, I think, to fall back on fear to, I'm fine. I'm scared, but I know where I am. And there's a certain amount of, it's, pardon the expression, but it's my bag of shit, but it's mine. And I know it. I know what to expect, and it's safe. So, I'm not one to let fear stop me, but every once in a while, it's like I see that, fear of success is a big one for me. I know where I am now. I've been successful, not so in my new biz. That's okay. I know I can get there, but I'm really, really clear. That's what's stopping me from being in action is fear.
Stopping you from what? Being in action?
I'm not in action because I'm scared. And I'm scared because all the what ifs that, like Yifat was saying, if I'm successful and my husband's not, then it'll make him feel less. And
That's a biggie. That's a biggie for women.
Right? For sure.
Yeah.
And I've always been the successful one. So now that I'm not, there's this certain...
The balance, yeah.
Yeah, shivyon, I want to say, but that's not the right word. So it's helping me in some respect to be fearful.
I think what you're talking about too is like the embracing your fear part. Like if fear is a part of you, if you feel like though it's preventing you from taking action, then like I'm of the fan, like I love my fear, and it's something that you got to develop a relationship with and do talk to it. But if it's a symptom of fear, which is that resistance, that not doing the things that you want to be doing, looking into what you just described, so many women have this, and men, the fear of success. I know for many people, I've experienced that more people have a fear of success than a fear of failure, because we've all failed before. But not all of us have been successful in the way that we want to be.
So question about that, if I may. What if in your mind, your success is threatening your relationship? Like you're like, if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to lose my marriage.
Yes, that's actually a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, it's the same process, right? So again, if that's the worst case scenario, then how do you make sure that doesn't happen? Now, you can't predict and you can't, say that that's not, but what would be the steps that you would take? Okay, so I need to first have a conversation with my significant other or partner, ask how they feel about this. talk about what if I was to make more money than you, how would you feel? Like, you basically need to open up that communication and allow you to be on the same path together. Right now, I'm not a relationship expert, so I can't talk about like how that relationship with your partner would be. But the fear is that, well, if I get too successful, then my partner will leave me. If that's the worst case scenario, then you need to address that first, right? Because as long as you constantly think that, it won't happen. Sorry. Go ahead.
The fear isn't that he's going to leave me. The fear is that I will be in a different place than him, and that the connection won't be there anymore. Because I will have gone farther. I will have grown more.
Okay, so then one, what makes you think that? So, and then two, can you address that with him?
I don't know if he could. I don't know. Maybe I'm making him small here.
Yeah, could be. Paul says what you're talking about is discernment. Yeah.
So let's let everybody know, Gina, where they can find the next steps and where they can connect with you. You have a free group on Facebook that,
I do.
Right, that women can go in there and get the support and connect with other women and process everything that they're feeling. Because I think now I'm realizing why you chose women, successful women in that area, because yes, we're coming in with a lot more than men in the corporate world, right? Like for them, it's like, yeah, whatever, I'm successful, I'm gonna get the women because I got the money, right? And women are like, where do I stand?
You're gonna lose. Yeah. There's a loss there, and anytime again there's a loss of something, loss of love, loss of like, that's what prevents us. I mean, it's funny because you can address fear. Men can do it this way too, and obviously I'm a fan of it, but women, it comes up differently. It can come up differently. They have a whole host of other fears that can come up many times. Plus I don't believe in busting through your fear or being like blowing through your fear, being very masculine through your fear. There's a way to work with it in a more embraceful way. But I do have a group. It's called The Ambitious Journey with Gina. And I mostly talk about this topic all the time in different ways, right? So different ways we get in our own way, which is what this is why I've been studying this for a while, because I didn't always talk about fear specifically. We talked about how you get in your own way, how you overcome procrastination, why you're avoiding the things that you want to be working on. But what I've discovered is it's always some fear. When you pull back all the layers, there's something there, and it's fear. And if you can address that, again,
root,
it's like,
right? Getting to the root of the.
Yes, it's root. Yeah. It's like, okay, are we addressing the symptoms or the root cause?
Yeah.
Right. And if you're addressing the symptoms all the time, then the root cause is going to keep on coming back. Right. And so that's why right now all I talk about is fear. My clients get tired of me saying, okay, have you done the fear process before we talk about even further? And they're like, oh yeah, I need to go do that. Yeah. So it's this process, this rinse and repeat process, but it's called The Ambitious Journey with Gina. I can put the links.
We'll share the link. We'll share the link with everybody.
I know you're live everywhere, so I'm like, I don't know where to put the link.
I know, we'll share it, and we'll share it on the page right here, guys. If you want to, we have resources from all our guests. So viralconnectivity.com/live. You'll find that. I want to say hi to Noah, who's joining us now, and Orit Levy is joining us now. So hi, guys. Watch the replay. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So in the group, and it's a Facebook group, right?
Yes, it's a Facebook group. And then I have just recently launched like a little mini self-paced course if anybody's interested. And I am offering it for free right now for a limited time because I just launched it. And it does go through the 5 steps that you take. You get a handout and a video where you can really dive into this. If even if you're a man and you really want this information, and I please do, don't let
this fear of being a man get in the way
please,
of you dealing with your fears.
During this time, those resources are just so needed right now. And so right now, and I can put the link in that in the comments too, but that if you use the code ambitious, it's free right now.
Very nice. So thank you for offering that to our viewers and everybody else. This has been fantastic. And thank you so much, Charlene, for coming on and opening up, and Dino, because your questions and conversations, so many people are relating, they're in the same boat. And it's good to have a voice for that, right? And a space.
Absolutely.
So thank you for hopping in. And tomorrow we are going to deal with one of my issues with Mr. Paul Ramsey. So lately, Paul, hop on in. So lately,
Yeah.
I have been having trouble sleeping. My brain is just working so much. And that is, as Paul says, affecting Paul. Come on in.
Well,
Hop on in.
yes.
Hop on in. Hop on in.
I didn't. I only said it after you said it. So in our pre-show, Ifat was saying that she was having difficulty speaking, which of course, for those of you who know you, Ifat, you know this, but maybe for first-time watchers, Ifat is Israeli, and so English is not her native language. And so I can usually tell, I've known Ifat long enough, I can tell when she's having an off day because she literally has trouble talking. And so today she was saying, like, she's like, I keep having these, I can't find the word, and I was like, yeah, because you're not sleeping well. And she was like, well, yeah. And I was like, so like your brain is not doing well because you're sleep deprived. Yeah. So it's going to be one of the ways it shows up. This happens to a lot of people. For some people, it's all of a sudden they can't do math or, but those are the subtle cues of when, your brain is not at optimal level. And so just some adjustments, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Simple things you can do to help yourself get back on track with your sleep. Sleep's the most overlooked aspect of human health. It's way, way overlooked.
And I know that it is. And I know that I'm supposed to be doing it. And still, I'm there with my phone until 2 a.m. So we'll talk about all that stuff tomorrow. So if you have problems sleeping or you don't speak 2 languages, then come tomorrow and same time. Come on, do it with me. 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 Eastern, 2 right here on viralconnectivity.com/live. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye. Bye, Paul.